Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Jerry Jones acted in an episode of the show Landman last night, Tony. You ever acted in anything?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Do adult films count? Are we counting?
No, don't even go there. Don't do it. The 70s.
I've been told Landman is very good. And I'd like to watch Landman, but it's on Paramount Plus, and I don't get that. I don't get it. But I'd like to watch.
There's no rule against you getting it. You can get it if you put it on, put the app on your television. You can get it.
I don't know how to get it. I mean, Billy Bob Thornton's in it. John Hamm's in it. I'm told it's really good. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Bears want to talk to Mike McCarthy. Bradley Beal is not happy about coming off the bench. And Jeff Saturday joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with Jalen Hurts, who is still in concussion protocol. Hurts has not practiced since getting a concussion in the Eagles' loss to Washington on December 22nd. That's 16 days ago. There will be no update on Hurts' availability until at least tomorrow. The Eagles won their final 2 games behind Kenny Pickett and second-year man Tanner McKee. By the way, Pickett has broken ribs. The Eagles played Green Bay on Sunday. Wilbon, how does all this affect your assessment of the Eagles in the playoffs?
Well, there's no playoffs for the Eagles, not for long, if Jalen Hurts can't play. I mean, he's the key to that. I know the defense has played well. They can run the ball. Brotherly shove is very effective when you get down inside the 5. But can you get there without Jalen Hurts? No, and I realize Jordan Love also has something going on, but he was warming up to come back in that Bears game. And whether or not he could do it actually, he was still on the sideline. Jalen Hurts is nowhere near the team because concussion protocol prohibits that. So he's not with them really. And I don't see the Eagles going anywhere or sustaining anything or winning a single playoff game, even at home, if the Packers are out there and Jordan Love is out there and their backup, Malik Willis, it seems, well, Kenny Pickett, we don't know his effectiveness. So both teams are in a little jeopardy, Tony, until we know their situations with their starters. But the Eagles are a no-go to me without Jalen Hurts.
I will tell you that I am quite surprised by this. I'm one of those simpletons who always thought you go in concussion protocol for a week and you play the next week, unless you're Tua, and this happens all the time. Now, he's been out for 2 games now, and he may be out for a 3rd game. And I would say to people, you know, this is proof that maybe the NFL actually does care about player safety. They seem to be very cautious with Jalen Hurts, or maybe, Mike, he was hurt more than we thought. I'm going to assume he's going to play, but maybe at a reduced capacity. Kenny Pickett's got broken ribs. The other kid was good, but he was good against the Giants, not the Packers. I am with you. If Jalen Hurts doesn't play or doesn't play near his capabilities, I think they're going to go out at this point. I don't think that they can win at this point, and we don't know what is going on with this. It's just very surprising to me. I assumed he'd be fine by now, and he's not.
Why would you presume that? There are degrees of concussions. You know people, Hall of Fame players, who have told us over the years about concussions they've had, where for 6 weeks they were in a complete fog. There are degrees of concussions, just like there are degrees of knee injuries. A sprained knee is one thing. Tearing the ACL, the MCL, it's another thing. So, no, I don't understand why you're surprised. The degree to which he's concussed is a big deal.
I understand that. I just assumed the way he got back up that everything was okay. This is a very interesting speculative story to talk about today to me. I like the story. I just don't know where it's going to end up. Yeah.
Well, speaking of speculation, we got some more right here. Because the only thing my Chicago Bears are competing for right now is a new head coach. And the team has reportedly asked the Cowboys for permission to talk to Mike McCarthy. Yes, Mike McCarthy, whose contract expires tomorrow, but the Cowboys hold exclusive negotiating rights for another week. Tone, would it even make sense for the Bears to hire Mike McCarthy? And should Jerry Jones even give him permission to talk to him?
So I'm somewhat reluctant and reticent to talk about this, about the Bears quarterback, because this is the Bears coach, rather. This is your account. Like, I know how much you wanted Jim Harbaugh, and I know now You want the offensive coordinator, right, from
Ben
the Detroit
Johnson.
Lions?
Probably.
Yeah, the only people you probably don't want, no matter what, are Matt Nagy and Todd Monken.
There you go.
You don't want them. I will point out that Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl in Green Bay, and of course he had Aaron Rodgers, but I think you're one of those guys who thinks that Caleb Williams could be, on his high end, Aaron Rodgers.
A Super Bowl quarterback.
McCarthy's won 174 NFL games. He's 13th all time, so it's a little surprising to me how easily he is disregarded by a lot of people. I mean, in terms of Jerry Jones, what exactly are we talking about here? Should he give them permission? Look, you either want McCarthy or you don't want McCarthy. You have 1 week left. It's just 1 week to make this decision. If you don't have the decision by now, what are you doing? You either sign him within the next 24 hours or say via con Dios. That's what you do.
Well, look, indecision paralyzed, I'm talking about Jerry Jones's indecision, it paralyzed the Cowboys all year. Now, once Dak got hurt, we don't know how that all would have turned out. But he couldn't do anything decisively all summer, and it hurt his team. So should the Bears, now get to this part about it, should the Bears hire Mike McCarthy? They should talk to him. They should bring him in. So much of these interviews, Tony, particularly for head coach or for executives, it's about intel and gathering it and listening to what other people have to say. What ideas are you bringing to the table as we now consider whether we're going to hire a guy who's 38 years old, which I think Ben Johnson is, or whether we're going to get a veteran guy? Here's the deal. Yeah, I like Ben Johnson, like most people who are looking jealously at the Detroit Lions saying, can we have a bowl of that?
Yeah.
Well, that would be Ben Johnson. But you know what? Mike McCarthy's won 174 more games in the NFL than Ben Johnson. So you bring McCarthy in and you listen to him, you talk to him, and he's disregarded in one place, Dallas. We're not Dallas. So I'm not saying he's at the top of my list, Mike McCarthy, because he's not. But I want to hear what he has to say. If I'm having a process and it's thorough, I want to gather, if I am Ryan Poles, who I don't think is 40 years old either, the general manager of the Bears, I need intel. I'm going to talk to whomever I can talk to.
I don't want to make McCarthy into, Bill Parcells or Joe Gibbs, because he doesn't have that kind of magic. But he can coach a good team to a good season, and he can coach a great quarterback to a great season. You could he's not inspirational, but you could do worse, and the Bears have done worse.
Yeah,
they have
4
done
times
worse.
since Lovie Smith we've done worse.
We move now to Bradley Beal coming off the bench for the first time since 2016 when he was on the Wizards recovering from an injury. Now he's on the Suns. He is the 5th highest paid player in the NBA. What? Suns coach Mike Budenholzer sent Beal to the bench to shake up his sagging team, and Beal responded with 25 points and a win. Wilbon, should Beal embrace coming off the bench?
I mean, whether he embraces it or not, he's on a team right now which is a total underachiever. And I understand it's injuries, but it's always something, and usually injuries with the Suns, who have these 3 players, including, of course, Kevin Durant and Mr. Booker, one of my favorite players in all of basketball. It doesn't work. And so I understand why Budenholzer did what he did to try to shake it up, because the Suns they've been dreadful. You look where they are. I'm not even sure they're in the play-in at this point. I haven't looked at the standings this morning. But, Tony, Beal is a guy who, if they're going to trade and get somebody, if they're going to seriously talk to Miami about Jimmy Butler, Beal's the guy who has to go, but he would have to waive, once again, the no-clause contract.
That's right.
You know how many guys in the NBA have a no-trade clause in their contract, too?
Him.
LeBron James and Bradley Beal. Those are the only 2.
Yeah.
So, Beal doesn't have – either he's going to say, okay, let me go. And I don't know why he wouldn't go to Miami. Miami's in a better spot if they pursue that deal. Miami's in a better spot right now for making the actual playoffs than the Suns are, who we keep waiting on because they've got these 3 great players in KD and Book and Beal, at least offensive players. It doesn't work. It doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know that Beal's a great player. The magic voice in my ear tells me that the Suns are at the moment in 11th. on losing teams. But he knows his circumstance. His direct quote is, I hold all the cards.
He does.
Right now, should he embrace coming off the bench? No player should embrace coming off the bench unless they're at the twilight of their career or unless they're the sixth man of the year. And you know what, Mike? You cannot deny the win. You cannot deny the fact that the Suns outscored Philly's bench 54-7. And you cannot deny 25 points, the fourth most points that Bradley Beal got all season. So maybe that's actually a good strategy. Let us take a break, but coming up, how should the Vikings handle Sam Darnold after Sunday's struggles? We are going to ask Jeff Saturday.
We're also going to ask him what advice he would give to rookie QBs Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. As my quarterback.
I mean, the Bradley Beal thing, maybe he doesn't want to go to Miami. I mean, he's got that right. His contract's insane. This is season. How do you reset him ahead of Monday night's game at the Rams?
Yeah, trust your eyes. The plays were there. Like KOC, they had him designed well. Addison on 2 of the red zone plays is wide open. He just doesn't make the throw. He had some errant throws to Jefferson after Jefferson had won. He overthrows him one time. He underthrows him another time. You could just tell he didn't feel comfortable. And I know everybody talking about the game said, well, he got hit, and so all of a sudden his eyes are going different places. But you could tell he lost the confidence early. And had any of those drives turned into touchdowns, it completely changes the dynamic of that game. Now, I'm not saying they win the game, but it changes the dynamic and the fear that you could see, or not fear may not be the best word, but the anxiety that you saw gripping him and it feel like it's getting tighter and tighter would not have been there. He'll bounce right back and be ready to play come this weekend.
Speaking of anxiety, Jeff, the Steelers and Ravens are going to face each other for the third time this season. You played in a number of situations where you've seen the team 3 times. What are the critical elements, the most critical elements of a third meeting?
Yeah, no trickery is going to win this game. It's who executes best. Protect the football at all costs and make sure you understand techniques and fundamentals of what you got to accomplish. We always talked about that. Once you know your opponent, you know what the guy, as an offensive lineman, you know what that defensive line, what his best moves are. Understand he's going to go to those moves. No different for a quarterback and what coverage you're going to get. No different for receivers and DBs. Everybody goes in. I will say this. The Steelers have been Lamar Jackson's kind of kryptonite up until the last game they played. Another massive area. He threw 3 touchdowns, I think 1 interception that was early. Derrick Henry running from 162 makes all things equal. So expect that Ravens team to go back to Derrick Henry, hammer the ball, allow Lamar Jackson to do his thing, and force the Steelers to play, try to put up a bunch of points, puts the favor in the Ravens' way.
Let's go from talking about those vets to a couple of rookies, Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, both of whom led their teams to the playoffs as rookies. But now, here we are in the postseason, Jeff. If you were sitting around with those guys, either one, in a locker room, you'd tell them the difference between the regular season is what?
It's all about what you've done and what you continue to do. Consistency will win football games. Don't try to be anything you're not. If you come into this game and you let all the noise, all the pressure, all the excitement make you become something that you haven't been all season, you ain't going to play well. Trust what you've done to get here. It's all the same. When you start playing the game, the first 10 minutes, all the emotions out. You burn it all out. Now it's going back to executing and doing those things. For a quarterback, you ain't got to win the game in the first quarter, but you can lose the game in the first quarter. So just stay consistent. Let's play this thing to the fourth quarter and let the best team win. Trust yourself. Trust your teammates. Let's go have a good game.
We will get you out of here on this. It's a question about the Giants, a truly terrible football team. The owner of the Giants, John Mara, is keeping his coach. He's keeping his GM, but he says he's just about to run out of patience. How does his comments, how do you react to what he's doing?
Oh, I hate them. Listen. There were some situations that have happened this past week. I can't. When you say my patience is almost over, so what you're doing is you're doing exactly what the Chicago Bears just did to Eberflus. You're putting all the pressure on the coach and the GM that they have these expectations of how the season's going to start, because every question from now until Game 17 of next year is going to be like, was your patience worn out? Unless they absolutely ball out, whoever they draft or whoever they go get from free agency, all you've done is create an intensity that no coach or general manager wants to play under. Just say, I trust my coach implicitly. We're going to come up with a plan. We're going to have our general manager. Everybody's in place. We're going to put this thing, we form this thing together. Trust the process, fans. Here we are. When you say I'm run out of patience, you basically told everybody this is thing, they better perform higher than any other expectation or we're not keeping them. It's just, you've set yourself up for failure. I hate the comment. I don't like how he said it. He may have said it in jest. I have no idea, but I don't like the comment even a little bit.
Yeah, those two guys were 9 and 25 the past 2 years, and you're just beginning to run out of patience? Really?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate y'all.
Let's take one last break. Still to come. A big test tonight for number 1 ranked and unbeaten Tennessee.
And another NFL head coach is out of here. It's head coach fire season. We're there.
I never understood why you would say something 3 months ago that I'm going to keep these guys no matter what. Why? Happy time, people. Happy 28th birthday, Lamar Jackson. Jackson is going for his 3rd MVP this year, and he has better passing statistics this time than in those past 2. Jackson just became the first player ever to throw 40 or more touchdown passes with fewer than 5 interceptions. Jackson's numbers were 41 and 4. He passed for 4,172 yards. He ran for 915 and 4 touchdowns. He had the best QBR in the NFL, 77.5, and the highest passer rating, 119.6. So when you make a case for Josh Allen or Jared Goff, as you can because of how many games their teams won, remember Jackson's numbers and that the Ravens closed 5-1, winning their last 4 games. Maybe that will carry through to the playoffs where Jackson is only 2-4.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson's numbers in terms of winning are nearly as good as Josh Allen's or Jared Goff's or anybody else's. Saquon Barkley. When you look at those numbers, Tony, the voters may have some sort of fatigue. Lamar Jackson fatigue. They don't want to vote for him again. That might plague Joker in the NBA MVP voting. Lamar Jackson's had the best season. He has. He's had a better season at quarterback at that position even than Josh Allen. He simply has.
Happy anniversary, Matt Flynn. On this day 17 years ago, the LSU quarterback led the Tigers to a 38-24 victory over Ohio State in the BCS championship game, throwing 4 touchdowns. Flynn was drafted by the Packers and is best known in his 7-year NFL career for starting in place of arresting Aaron Rodgers in the 2011 season finale, beating the Lions 45-41 and throwing for 480 yards and 6 touchdowns, both of which set single-game Packers records. Fueled by that game, Flynn signed a 3-year deal with the Seahawks for $20.5 million, $9 million guaranteed, which was big money then. Flynn was soon beaten out by Seahawks rookie Russell Wilson. Wilbon, I drew a complete blank on Matt Flynn.
Tony, the only thing I associate Matt Flynn with is the Russell Wilson episode. Is signing what was then a big contract to go to Seattle. And then every day, the reports out of Seattle saying, wait a minute, this Russell Wilson kid looks better. What are they going to do? Are they going to start Flynn because he's making all the money? And they said, no, we're going to go with Russell Wilson. And it turned out to be the right move.
Won a Super Bowl that way. Happy trails to Montana State's unbeaten season. Montana State was 15-0, ranked number 1 heading into last night's 1AA title game. But its opponent, 14-2 North Dakota State, had won 9 of the last 13 titles. And the Bison made it 10-14 last night, winning 35-32. I believe I had that. North Dakota State's Cam Miller won a battle of dual-threat quarterbacks, throwing for 199 yards and 2 touchdowns, running for 121 and 2 more. Bison coach Tim Polasek won the title in his first year as head coach, the latest of 4 head coaches who have combined for these 10 titles. Wilbon, I watched the first half of this game. I loved it. I love that play. There's nobody on the field. What?
Can the Bears interview the guy who designed that play, at least for offensive coordinator? I'm just asking.
That was terrific. Quick to the big finish. The
Let's do
Raiders
it.
fired Coach Antonio Pierce. Is that justified?
4-13, yeah. Are they going to look to Dion and Shador now? You wonder about the Raiders. Titans fired GM Ram Carthon, but are keeping their head coach Brian Callahan. Does that make sense?
I don't know what they're doing. I think they have the number 1 pick, though. Celtics at the Nuggets tonight. Are you intrigued?
Absolutely. The Nuggets seem like they're trying to claw their way back. We know who the Celtics are. The Dodgers traded Gavin Lux to the Reds. Surprise you?
I am. I thought he was a key infielder. I am surprised. Last one, men's college hoops tonight. Number 1, Tennessee at number 8, Florida. Who you got?
Florida. You're a top 10 team playing at home against a conference rival, a hated conference rival. That's your game to win. You got the Gators beating the Vols.
We're out of time. We will try and do better the next time. And a shout out to Mike Breen from the entire crew of Curb Your Interruption.
I'm Mike Wilbon, same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now,
We love Mike Breen. NFL team has the most pressure to win Wild Card Weekend.
Tony, I'm going to answer that question by asking first another question. And to me, this depends entirely on who you look at and say, wait a minute, that team's got the goods in terms of personnel and coach, the structure, but they've disappointed in the playoffs. Who fits that bill? Well, if we go through these teams quickly, the Vikings and the Rams don't. The Rams won a couple of years ago, and nobody expected the Vikings, first with a rookie quarterback from Michigan, then with Sam Darnold, who's never done squadouche. Nobody expected anything of them coming into the season. Commanders and Bucks, the same thing, though Baker Mayfield has really played himself into different expectations. The Packers and Eagles, the Eagles won recently, but they were a mess coming into the season based on what happened at the end of last season. Broncos and Bills. The Bills are projected to be really good. They're not a disappointment. They lost to Kansas City. Steelers and Ravens, I'm going to come back to them. Chargers, Texans. I have expectations of the Texans because I picked them to go to the title game, but they're not that good. Steelers, Ravens. That's where the conversation centers, and the answer is the Ravens. Lamar's won 1 million MVPs. It doesn't matter. You got to get to the Super Bowl. The answer is the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that on any level. I have 3 other teams that I would mention, and one of them you dismissed a little while ago, and that is Houston. Houston came into this season with high hopes, high optimism, and they went backwards this season. They're playing at home, and they're playing against the Chargers, a team that surprised everyone by even getting the playoffs with Jim Harbaugh in his first year. So I think there's pressure on Houston. I think there is pressure on Philadelphia because of the collapse last year, and it's a pressure that they didn't even know was coming, and that is the fact that Jalen Hurts may or may not play. I think that if they were to lose this game at home, it would put a bad taste on what was otherwise a redemptive season, especially with Saquon Barkley on that team. And then the third team for me is Minnesota. Minnesota was 14-2. They were contending for the number 1 seed in the NFC and the bye. They had a loss where they didn't look good against Detroit. If they were to lose to the Rams, those 2 last losses, I think, would ruin their season. So that's why I have them as part of this group.
They're so far off I-95, pressure doesn't even reach them. I was around for the 15-1 season in Minnesota, covering a lot of weeks with that team, and there wasn't pressure, and they lost in the playoffs and didn't get to the Super Bowl. Was that New Orleans who won that Super Bowl? Whatever the case, Tony, the answer is Baltimore. The Ravens have the coach. They have the stars. They have had, historically, the defense. The Ravens, it's their time. Let's see it. That's it. We're done. Back to you.